Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a fabulous January. My name is Jacqueline Gibson, and I am a professional traditional astrologer. Today we're looking at the new moon that's occurring on January 29th. This will be our first new moon of 2025, and it's happening in the sign of Aquarius. So we'll be breaking that down and looking at what this new moon is indicating for you based on your rising sign. So let's get right into it. So the new moon is happening in Aquarius. As you can see, the sun and the moon are highlighted there, along with Mercury and Pluto. But Aquarius is ruled by the planet Saturn, and right next door, in the sign right next door in Pisces, Saturn is in the middle of a conjunction with Venus and Neptune and the North Node. So this new moon happening in Aquarius includes Mercury and Pluto as well. As you can see there, the sun, the moon, Mercury, and Pluto are all in a pretty tight alignment. Basically, what that means is that the indications from what's happening in Pisces as well as the indications in Aquarius are equally significant right now. Mostly because of that rulership with Saturn ruling Aquarius, it's ruling the new moon. So it's saying, hey, don't leave me out of this. Look at me too. All right, so let's get started with your rising sign. If you have Aries rising, you may suddenly feel compelled to explore new social groups or to start hanging out with different friends. Your community is changing in some way that's kind of intense actually right now with Pluto in the mix of all this. There may also be sudden endings to old social circles that leave you room for seeking out new companionship. This isn't so much like your best friend, like this isn't a one-on-one connection. This is your community and who you align with. So if you've moved recently, that could have suddenly motivated you to seek out new people. There's just been some kind of shift within your people, basically, and you're looking for new new people to hang out with, new people to socialize with, basically. The Saturn-Venus North Node Neptune conjunction is happening in your 12th house. This is a more unconscious house. So the new moon itself is happening in the 11th. That's your community and your friends. And the Saturn conjunction with Venus and the North Node and Neptune is happening in your 12th house. So it could be either you're feeling a little bit blocked from aligning yourself with a new community because of some kind of past experience that makes it difficult to be vulnerable. Something just may be holding you back in some way. Or you may be taking some time out to spend some time alone, just kind of working through some unconscious stuff, whether that's with a counselor, a healer, a therapist, a doctor, or even just doing journaling and writing at home, using whatever mentors, appeal to you. So there may be like either a feeling of, I really need to get this work done on my own, that kind of holds you back from seeking out new friendships, or the friendships may somehow be like you might have joined a group that is motivating you to do some more intense inner work, if that makes sense. Also, always with the 12th house, we have to watch for self-sabotage and sabotage from others. That doesn't mean that we should be afraid of that. It just means to be mindful of it, to be aware of it. If you get like a gut feeling that somebody in your new environment isn't good for you, follow that. This is not a time to ignore any gut feelings. If you have Taurus rising, the new moon is happening in your 10th house, which is your career and your public reputation. So this new moon is highlighting for you, like looking into new professional goals or new professional directions. You might be setting intentions for, I am here now, but I would like to get there, kind of planning out what that looks like for you in a real way, like in your real day-to-day life. Right now, you might also feel out of alignment in some way with your public reputation or who you are out in the world, how you present yourself. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. You could just be, growing up or growing into new things, but something feels off. If that's the case, you just want to reflect on that and allow yourself to grow. Allow yourself to be who you feel you're becoming. It can be uncomfortable at first. That's okay. Just go with it. The Saturn, Venus, Neptune, North Node conjunction is happening next door in your 11th house. And that's your friends and your community and your social groups of people that you hang out with, who your people are. You might feel like some of those relationships are a little bit restrictive right now, or that they've become a little cold in some way. That again could be because you feel like you're growing in your career or in some other direction that has to do with your public persona. And maybe community that you once aligned with is also something that you're outgrowing. Or it could be that there's a project of some kind that you're doing with the people that you consider your community. And so, yes, it's kind of fun and there is that like Venus aspect of connection, but it's also work. So it's a little less fun, more structured, probably just being experienced by you as different right now. If you have Gemini rising, this new moon will be happening in your 9th house. And the 9th house is fraught right now, to be honest. The 9th house is our political beliefs, which is not an easy topic for anybody really right now, not all the time. In addition to political beliefs, and it's any beliefs really, it's whatever you kind of answer to, whatever your code is. So that might be more spiritual, that might be more intellectual, that could be more legal, more practical, whatever that means for you. And in addition to your beliefs, it's also higher education and travel. So all of these things are a possibility for you as far as what your focus will be during this new moon and for the next couple weeks. But whichever one it lands on, it's going to be intense because of that Pluto-Mercury conjunction that's happening at the same time. You might feel like traveling because of the political atmosphere that we're in right now. If it does not align with your political beliefs, you might be changing what you believe in at this time for whatever reason. A lot of times what happens in this house when there's transits to this house, especially intense ones, it can just feel like all things associated with my belief system and how I see the world, my worldview, are being impacted intensely and shifting very suddenly. And there may be some activity around that right now during this new moon and for the next couple weeks. You just want to pay attention to it and incorporate that into what your future plans are. It does not mean you need to act now. This is more of a planning than an acting kind of time. It's a good time to take the action to make plans, not necessarily the time to impulsively run out and do a major shift. The Saturn, Venus, North Node, Neptune, that's a mouthful, conjunction is happening in your 10th house. This is your career. Wherever Saturn is, we sometimes feel held back or stagnant in some way. Venus being in this house can give us like sort of a breath of fresh air, but that might look like I'm working on something and the people that I'm working on this with, like the group that I'm working with, I like them. There's camaraderie, there's connection, but it's still work and it's not fulfilling any kind of social needs right now. Just might feel a little bit stale. There could also be some situations that arise that have to do with your public reputation and how you present yourself in public. This is a good time to look at emotional boundaries, to do an inventory of your boundaries. Are they too porous? Are they more like walls than boundaries? I want that kind of healthy balance where I am flexible, but only where I want to be flexible, where I choose to be flexible. Definitely not a good time to overshare with any coworkers. It is a good time to practice presenting yourself in the public eye in the way that you want to be seen. If you have Cancer rising, this new moon is happening in your 8th house. The 8th house is about intimacy, vulnerability, can also be about shared resources, taxes, inheritance, investments, saving, how you split finances in your relationship if you're in a primary partnership. So it's a really good time for setting intentions for financial planning, setting up those goals, and then setting up how you're going to get there. Also, if issues come up surrounding vulnerability or intimacy, it's a good time to invest some energy in that and how you trust people and what that looks like for you, and to grow in some way where that's concerned. Sometimes we grow to trust other people based on having better boundaries around people we can't trust. And sometimes it's about being more open. So that's something that you would need to discern for yourself, but it's a good time to kind of figure out, how does that work for you? And is it working for you? Does that ability to trust, to discern between who is trustworthy and who isn't, is that something that's functioning well in your life right now? Or is that something that you want to take a look at? If it is something you want to take a look at, now is a good time to do that. The Saturn, Venus, Neptune North Node conjunction is happening in your 9th house. And this is the house of travel and spiritual beliefs, political beliefs. It's our code. So if you're more spiritual than intellectual in your belief system, then that's what it means for you. You may feel that your beliefs are challenged by someone in your environment right now in some way, or by circumstances in your environment. You may have also had travel plans that are not coming to fruition as quickly as you would like. That doesn't mean they're not going to happen. It just means they might be taking more work than you're used to them taking, or for whatever reason, it feels like it's never getting here. Like it's never happening. It doesn't mean that it won't. Wherever Saturn is, it's like we have to dot every I and cross every T in order to make something happen. There's just no skipping anything. So Saturn being in that house right now is just a difficult time to get travel plans in order and then actually get things done. Or you might feel like your desire to travel is somehow blocking other things in your life, or something else is blocking your ability to travel. There might be a trip you want to take that you haven't been able to. There also could be people taking trips with you that are sort of blocking the experience for you in some way. You may just feel like you want to change up the group that you travel with, or who your travel partner is, so that you can enjoy it more fully. This is a good time for setting intentions to expand your horizons. So this could also be about, because travel is the 9th house, but so is education. So you might feel like your education is getting in the way of your travel, or your travel is getting in the way of your education, or maybe you haven't looked into some kind of class that you want to take, or, degree that you want to begin because of things that have been going on in the world, and, not being sure of travel plans, things like that. So it's okay if all of this is happening. You just want to take it one step at a time and do the next thing you can to the best of your ability. That's all that's expected of you. So just try not to let it stress you out too much. There's a lot of intensity there right now. Definitely some confusion. So just roll with it. That's definitely the suggestion. If you have Leo rising, this new moon will be in your 7th house. The 7th house is all about partnerships. And this can be, if you're in a romantic relationship, it's that partnership, like a long-term romantic relationship. If not, it can be a business partner, or like whoever you share your life with, if there's one person like that. And during this time, you're really setting intentions to better your relationship, to better your experience with relationships, especially the way that you communicate, or what communication looks like for you in partnership. This has mostly to do with like Mercury going through that house at the same time as the new moon, the focus on communication. But remember, Pluto's going to be in that house for you for the next 20 years. So there's a lot changing as far as how you experience relationships and how you practice them. But right now, the focus is on communication and what could change there, what is and isn't working there, what needs to go, what needs to be built. Maybe from the ground up, maybe something you've never done before. You may be thinking about a lot of partnerships where you've seen things that you intensely do not like, that's definitely not what I want to do. And that might be coming up for you right now. It's not any kind of warning. It's like more like reminder. Like, so how do we create a practice of communication? And partnership so that that's not where we go. That's not where we end up. Make sure during this time too that you are communicating your needs effectively. And by that, I mean that other people understand what it is you mean and what you need, and that you stand up for what those needs are. It doesn't have to be brutish, just like, no, seriously, this is important to me kind of thing. The Saturn, Venus, Neptune, North Node conjunction will be happening in your 8th house. The 8th house is investments, our partner's resources, our shared resources, how we share resources with a partner, or how we might share. That could be a partner in business, a partner that I'm romantically involved with, that I live with or don't live with, but however we are commingling our finances. So whatever shared resources you have. This could also be about intimacy and vulnerability and trust. So if situations come up that kind of challenge your practice in those areas, or your ability to trust people, or do you trust too much, or do you not trust enough, anything that comes up in this area is something that's really like the universe is saying, look at this. It's a good time to work on this. This might also be a good time to look at financial boundaries and make whatever adjustments are necessary, as well as emotional boundaries. And do you need any adjustments where that's concerned? Often the 8th house is a place of vulnerability, no matter what planets you have there, or, everybody has an 8th house. So wherever yours is, that's kind of a soft spot for you. So be really gentle with yourself as you're walking through this. So if vulnerability comes up, it's okay. Everybody's got a soft spot. That's mine. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to work on that today. If you have Virgo rising, this new moon will be in your 6th house, and it's going to be inspiring you to look at your health habits, your work environment, your daily routines. And the point of the new moon is to set some intentions around that. So likely in the last couple of weeks, either your work environment has not been what you want it to be, or your daily routine could be too much, not enough of what you want your daily routine to be. And you may not be taking good care of yourself. You may have noticed that you're having some adverse effects having to do with self-care, or even not necessarily because of anything you're doing. There just may be some health issues that have sprung up. Nothing necessarily major, but something making you feel tired, or you've been more sick than usual. So you want to consider new ways to handle all of these issues in your life. And you may be coming across some information, either spoken to you from a doctor, a friend, a coworker, a superior at work. But some kind of information comes through at this time that's going to help you with the overall 20-year Pluto transit that you have going on in the 6th house. This is just like one small piece of it. So the more we get those small pieces and practice them right away, the less strenuous a 6th house transit can be, especially one involving Pluto. So the whole point of right now is to just set intentions that will make your future easier. Saturn, Venus, the North Node, and Neptune are in your 7th house. So whatever's going on with your daily routine, your health, your work, that can be affecting your relationship at this time. And it may feel like either your relationship restricts some of the changes that you want to make where your health is concerned, your work routine is concerned, your work environment is concerned, or in some way those two things are affecting each other. And it's just a lot. There's just a lot of it. So you want to be patient with yourself. You want to just work through these things one at a time. It's a good time to practice healthy communication in your partnership, possibly about what's going on in your daily routine. There's something that you haven't shared with a partner. Maybe there's something that that would make some of the tension lessen. This is also a good time to practice those healthy boundaries, whether we're talking about emotional boundaries in your partnership, or where you might feel like you're unclear or inconsistent with setting boundaries in partnerships. It's a good time to take a look at that, and how can I make that so that my boundaries are consistent and healthy as well as flexible in places that I want them to be flexible, but not porous. And the difference there is just, where am I open to learning new things and I want someone else's input? And where am I saying, yes, this is definitely what I want? And then as soon as there's a challenge to that, I'm like, no, that's okay. I don't want it. When I really do. That's a porous boundary. That's not being flexible. So we want to balance those things. And it's possible that if that's not happening, that could be adversely affecting your daily routine or your health in some way. Attention on both of these areas of your life benefits both of these areas of your life, if that makes sense. If you have Libra rising, the new moon will be in your 5th house. The 5th house is all about creativity, what you're passionate about. Can also be about your children or any children that are in your life. You're likely to feel inspired to set new intentions around how you spend your time creatively. Again, that could be with children. That could be how you create on your own, like what you create on your own. If you're an artist, or, I mean, there's so many things that are actually creative. Anything from, programming computers to lawn care to decorating the house to actually painting. So many things are considered creative. A lot of times people will say, well, I'm not a creative person. They actually are. They just don't recognize that this thing that they're doing is their creative thing. If that's you, really put some focus and some energy on what makes you creative. Where do you create? Because we all do. We create chaos. We create drama. There's lots of things we can create. Are you good with what you're creating right now? If the answer is no, maybe there's a place it needs to be, you could shift it so that you would be happy with it. This doesn't mean that you do generally create drama. But Pluto being in your 5th house, there could be some drama created in your life right now, not necessarily of your own making. So that might be a place where you're going to need to start practicing boundaries if that's the case. But the 5th house is also about joy and passion and love and romance. So if an opportunity arises for new creative joy, fun, romance, if that comes up, that might be where you're taking your creative energy right now. Whatever it is, you want it to be unique to you and about you, because the 5th house is really where we express ourselves. So make sure that this is actually sincerely you that you're expressing. The Saturn, Venus, North Node, Neptune alignment is all happening in your 6th house, which has to do with your health, your work environment, your day-to-day routine. So you might just want to take some time to reflect on what is restrictive in my daily routine right now, or where maybe am I too restrictive in my health routine? Am I actually limiting joy in some way by how I take care of myself or don't take care of myself? If there's a lack of self-care in your life right now, the universe is going to call you on that. You're not going to have Saturn in your 6th house and get away with no self-care. So even if you feel like, oh, it's just another thing I have to add to the list, short bursts of whatever you can do. If you were once a reader, a vociferous reader, and you haven't read a book in forever, grab one, read one chapter a night. Just something to make you feel like you're doing something that is absolutely you, sincerely you, and that is also taking care of you. And that can be external. Go get your nails done, go to the gym if those are things you enjoy. Those are things that you've been wanting to do and you just haven't yet. It's a good time to set intentions for the health routine that you really want and the daily routine that you really want. If you have Scorpio rising, this new moon will be happening in your 4th house, along with the Pluto-Mercury conjunction. And this highlights your home life. Could also highlight parents, family, your actual physical home, as well as your roots, like your ancestral roots. So at this time, something's happening that sort of, the image that comes to my mind is just those handheld lawnmower things that just tear up the yard. That's kind of what's happening on an unconscious level with our ancestral roots, as well as just with our home. You might feel like everything's got to go and you have to change everything inside of your home. There may be a lot of changes happening within your family dynamics. Kids growing up, moving out, kids coming back home, new babies coming. You may have recently gotten married, but your home feels like there's just a lot of change happening. So right now is actually a good time to set some intentions about what you want your home to look like and feel like for you. What changes do you want to make? Because changes are going to happen. Pluto's in your 4th house. Changes are going to happen in your home as well as in your family dynamics. How do you want to participate in that? And what does that look like for you? The purpose there is to just set some intentions that make your home life as harmonious as you can as this transit moves along for the weeks and months ahead. The Saturn, Venus, Neptune, North Node conjunction is happening in your 5th house. And this is the house of like joy and fun and partying and romance. And it's also children and playing and how we express ourselves creatively. So Saturn in that house can feel like these are all the things that I don't get to do right now or that are somehow blocked. If they aren't totally blocked, it may feel like the things that I used to love have sort of become a job. So you've got like, this is what I love. And in the house of what I love, here's Saturn making everything feel like work. And that's been going on for a while, the last 2 years-ish. So what's happening right now is there's just a lot more attention being brought to that fact. Are there places, again, where emotional boundaries would help? Or where you might just need to reassess your time? You know, maybe you want to spend more time with your children and you feel like you can't, like something's holding you back from that. Like, how can you manage that? Is there a way to manage that? It might be a place where you need to just practice acceptance and wait for better timing. But for now, just evaluate it and see what can you do to make that house a little less like work and a little more like joy. It's going to be work, but you still have the choice to like bring in elements of joy to those things that have felt like work lately. If you have Sagittarius rising, the new moon is in your 3rd house. The 3rd house is all about communication, siblings, can be about like new things that we're learning. Like if you're reading instructional type books or information, even taking like a short online class, this may just look like opportunities to learn something new. Most likely it has to do with communication. If you have siblings, this might be a place where this is playing out. So there might be some type of new adventure that you're taking with a sibling or just a new chapter in the relationship that you have with your sibling. If this also involves communication, that would definitely tie that new moon in together perfectly. Regardless, Pluto in this 3rd house over the next 20 years is really like turning up the fire on how you communicate and any kind of mindful transformation to your communication. When Pluto's there, like you don't really get a choice. Things will change. It doesn't mean that you don't get to you have no say. Like you don't get a word in edgewise. It's not like that. It's kind of like Pluto says, kabam, showing you something. And then as the dust settles, like you get to kind of rebuild from there. Taking steps to consciously rebuild is a good idea during a Pluto transit as well. You might have to wait for your opportunity to actually practice it. That doesn't mean that the time doesn't come. So any kind of like stimulating discussions are really good for you right now. Like things that are intense that really change the way you think. Lectures are even good right now if you enjoy them. If they're not intense, if they don't really pull you in, you're not going to have time for that. So don't try to waste your time on something that you find boring. It just won't stick. The Saturn, Venus, North Node, Neptune alignment in Pisces, for you, that's in your 4th house. And the 4th house is your home, your family, your roots. It can be your physical home or the place that you call home. If you think in your head, what is home to me? That's where this transit is happening. And wherever Saturn is transiting, that's usually a place where we feel sort of blocked. We feel like things are not moving as quickly as we want to. So maybe you're looking for a house or you're trying to move and it just feels like it's never the right time, or it's difficult to find the right house, the right financing, the right place to move to. Maybe when you think you found it, something comes up and no, it's not, that's not it. Like it just feels like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back kind of thing. If that's the case, wherever Saturn is, we're practicing patience. Just keep practicing. It will happen. Generally, what Saturn transits are about is making sure that we dot every I, cross every T, that we've thought of every possibility as far as what we want structure to look like in this house. So, and for you, it's literally possibly a house. It's home. If you're not looking to move, there may be some need for different boundaries within your home, within your family life, whatever family life means to you. If you live alone, that could be about boundaries with neighbors. But Saturn often also is teaching boundaries, and honest boundaries, not flimsy, not conditional. We're allowed to be flexible, but we're not allowed to be wishy-washy when Saturn is around. It just won't work. There are other times in your life it might. Right now it won't. If you've been experiencing any emotional barriers within your family, now's a good time to just have conversations about that and maybe talk about what everybody's expectations of each other are. Maybe there's house rules that need to be reevaluated. All of those things are good activities or good things to involve yourself with at this time. If you have Aquarius rising, this new moon is happening in your first house. So you get to be the avatar for the new moon. Yay. So this would be affecting like your personal identity, your physical self, how you show up in the world. It's really like, it's me. It's just, it's me. It's this space right around me. It's how I show up. During a new moon, you might be encouraged to kind of redefine how you show up in the world, or redefine something about yourself physically, whether that's better self-care or a different self-care routine, changing something up in your self-care routine. You might suddenly dye your hair a color that you've always wanted to, but you haven't. And that may seem sudden to other people, but you know, like you've been thinking about it for a long time. That kind of like sudden change, it might be sudden to those in your environment, not necessarily to you. So it's definitely encouraged to take this time to do those things. If there's something that you have wanted to change about yourself, about your appearance, or the way that you show up in the world, now is a good time to start making those changes, or to set the intention to make them over the next couple weeks to like get a foundation going for that, depending on how big of a project we're talking about. And then for you, Aquarius rising, the Saturn, Venus, North Node, Neptune alignment in Pisces is happening in your second house. This is your finances. So you might feel like the changes to your self-care routine or the changes to your appearance that you want to make are limited somewhat by your finances. Saturn's in your second house right now. It's been there for a minute. It's almost done on the brighter side. And that might be where a plan comes in versus like an instant change, depending again on the size of the change that we're making. It would be a good idea too, if there's like a really big change that you want to make, focus right now on the first step of that. Rather than focusing on what you can't do right now, focusing on what you can, because Saturn won't be in Pisces even for the rest of this year. So likely things in your finances will change. And that might allow you, to take those next steps as you get there versus, oh, well, I'm not going to bother because if I can't have the whole thing that I want to do, then I'm just going to blow it off. Take those first steps now because, like I said, as Saturn moves out of Pisces, it might become easier. The financial resources for whatever it is that you want to do might be there. This could also be about time. Like I might not feel like I have the time to invest. Again, start slow, and some time in your schedule might open up for whatever reason in the coming months. With Saturn in the second house too, it's generally wise to take a look at like, why do I want this? So if this change in my self-care routine, I'm doing it because I feel like it's expected of me. Is it something that actually makes you feel good, or is this something you've tried before and this wasn't for you? And really you need to look for something that is more you. Saturn, although considered very traditional, it's not as easy as, well, if I do the old thing, or if I do the thing that like my grandparents and my parents did, then that's the right thing. Saturn's just not that easy. If for generations, people in your family have been doing something in terms of, valuing yourself, or how financial planning is managed, if that's been done in a way that's not feasible for you for whatever reason, Saturn's not going to let you get away with just like, oh, I'll just do it the way everybody else does it and then it'll be fine. Or if self-care in your family always looks like this, like everybody eats this certain kind of food, but I don't want that food. Maybe everybody's vegan and I don't feel good like that. Or maybe everybody eats bacon 3 times a week and that grosses me out. Whatever it is, there may be a conflict between like what is expected of you versus what is honestly you, and making those adjustments so that you can come out of this transit more sincerely you is the goal. So I hope that makes sense, and look at whatever that means for you. If you have Capricorn rising, this new moon is happening in your second house. The second house is all about possessions, self-worth. It's my money and it's my stuff. That's what the second house is. So you might feel during this new moon and, the weeks surrounding it, you might feel like setting intentions for financial goals for yourself. This is especially like how you spend your money, what you spend your money on, and any purchases that you want to make. If there's something you're saving towards, now is a good time to make a plan towards that. You might also look at new ways to manage money in a way that's more conducive to whatever the goals are that you have. The Saturn, Venus, Neptune, North Node in Pisces alignment is happening for you in the 3rd house. And this house is about communication. So how this house can serve what's going on with the new moon in your second house and your finances can be, are there boundaries that you need to set with friends, with siblings, with people you feel emotionally connected to? That might have to do with time. That might have to do with, how everybody pitches in for certain things, or might have to do with, projects that you're doing. But there's some type of communication related project that can help with the financial goals that you're setting right now, if that makes sense. Maybe you get financial advice from a sibling or a friend or any kind of mentor, but probably somebody that you feel sort of, even though this person teaches you, I also feel warmly towards them, if that makes sense. Make sure that if there are any boundaries that need to be set, that you set them when Saturn's in your 3rd house. Allowing people to speak to you in a way that's not okay with you is not going to fly for the long term. And speaking to yourself in a way that isn't helpful for you also won't fly. If your inner critic is running stuff, that's gotta get managed. And the reality is that if your inner critic is running things, it might be affecting how you reach those financial goals and even what you set them for. Sometimes we set financial goals that have nothing to do with what we actually want. It's all about what we think other people want us to want, or what we're supposed to want. They have to be true to you. And if you're not reaching them, it could be because they're not really yours. So we kind of like send out this mixed message, and then we behave in this mixed way. Like, I want this, but I really don't. And so I kind of take the first opportunity to sort of ditch this step that I was on to get to that goal. If that's you, just take a step back, reassess the goals, and then realign your daily routine so that it's helping you to meet the goals that you actually have, that you sincerely have, that are actually yours. I hope that makes sense. If you have Pisces rising, this new moon is happening in your 12th house. The 12th house is all about spending time in introspection, spending time not necessarily in isolation, but spending like quality time alone. Whether that's just about like recharging my battery, or because I just need like an emotional reset, like maybe from a lot of activity with other people or activity with people who are just kind of upsetting to my nervous system. It can be that kind of like just calming down. But a new moon in your 12th house is really about looking at how I spend my time alone. And it can be a really good time for looking into any kind of healing that you want to try, therapies that you want to try, like hypnotherapy or, trauma therapy, or even, just cognitive behavioral therapy to learn new skills around any kind of behaviors that you want to modify for yourself. So if that's you, now is a really good time to do that. Some of your like unresolved like fears or anxieties might come up right now. If that's the case for you, just do your best to roll with them and use them as an opportunity for growth. Like, that's such a cheesy thing to say, I know, but really, like, if you're right now, if you're feeling a certain fear that's cyclical for you, that's happened before, that you kind of like, you waited it out before and now it's back, like, now's a good time to just make a plan, deal with it. Whether that plan is, calling a list of therapists that you have, or looking into different types of healing modalities that you think might help or that you've heard are helpful. Now is just a good time to really address your own emotional and psychological baseline and maintaining it in a way that is comfortable for you. Maybe there's a place where boundaries need to be readjusted, reassessed. Are they working for me? Are my boundaries trampled right now for some reason? And if that's the case, why? And what do I need to do about it? And how do I get there? And then for Pisces rising, the Saturn, Venus, Neptune, North Node alignment is happening in your first house. So the next 18 months, if you're a Pisces rising, that North Node in your first house, it's pretty intense around the time of eclipses especially. So right now, not so much, but there will be, because there is so much activity in your first house right now, there'll definitely be different kind of hints leading up to, I think the first eclipse that we have in your first house is going to be in March, the end of March. So right now you're kind of getting like, hey, here's some information on the slide to help you get through that eclipse, whatever's going on there. And again, it doesn't have to be some great big terrible thing. It's just that for you right now, and it can feel like a lot on you personally because it's your first house. It's literally you. So if you're feeling like you need to make changes to your personal appearance to feel more like yourself, do that. You may also kind of feel like either friendships are a job right now. You feel like you are a job to your friends, like whether that's making the time to see one another. Maybe your friends are very busy right now. Making time for you is difficult, or vice versa. Like you're having a difficult time making space and time and opportunity to spend time with your friends. You might just be feeling like there's some kind of connection there between my friends, or just sort of feeling like they're sucking all the air out of my environment, or I feel like I'm doing that to them. It's just a good time to communicate where that's concerned, because it could be that you have friendships in your life that are just not going to move forward, or this is just a growth phase in some of your friendships. So having those conversations openly can really help. And again, this is a good time to take a look at your own personal boundaries, your emotional boundaries, your intellectual boundaries. What kind of stuff do I allow into my head? What kind of stuff do I allow into my heart and take personally? Am I letting my inner critic dominate my headspace? Am I being too difficult on myself? And then, do the people around me, are they supportive of me? All of this is kind of on the table right now. So figuring out which one is coming up for you and then working through that is really your best use of this time. So thanks for watching today's breakdown of the first new moon for 2025. I hope this info helps you to make good choices, the right choices for you in the coming weeks. If you're interested in a more personal look at your own chart, feel free to schedule a session with me in the link below in the description box. If you found this video useful, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment below if you have questions or something you'd like to see in future videos. I'd love to hear what you have to say, thoughts, criticisms, whatever. I'm tough. Until next time, take really good care of you.